Coming up on episode 17 of Create If Writing.
And my whole life changed in that moment. List building is all about direct response, getting people to take an action.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light.
Everyone who's been successful has failed so much more than they've ever had success.
One by one the stars are disappearing from the horizon.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Create If Writing podcast. You may or may not have noticed that it was a day late this week, and that is because you may hear it a little bit in my voice, but I got some kind of sickness that basically took residence in my throat, and I completely lost my voice earlier in the week and still sound a little bit funny. I would call it kind of puberty if you mixed puberty with like smoking 100 cigarettes a day or something, but I'm squeaky and raspy and just kind of sound like a mess. But it's good enough now that I felt like I could go ahead and record the intros and outros and little pieces that I needed to add into this episode. Today, I am so excited to bring you an interview with Maritza Parra, and you can find her at easyonlinemarketing.com or maritzaparra.com. Now, I met Maritza and heard her speak at Podcast Movement this summer in July of 2015 in Fort Worth. She had a session on how to attract your listeners for your podcast to your email list. And what I remember about the session is this. First of all, it was super actionable and very accessible. She did a fantastic job presenting everything and making it feel like something that you could actually do. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes you sit through a session and you think, there's no way I could do any of these things. It's just beyond me, or you get overwhelmed. But it was not overwhelming. It was, I got out and felt like, okay, I've already got my list and I can do things with it now. So that was fantastic. The other thing I remember is that so many people were interested to hear about email that the room was beyond full. All of the seats were taken. There were people standing, and I was sitting on the floor because that's the kind of person I am. I'm a floor sitter. And I think it was like 3 deep. Like there were 2 or 3 people in front of me. There were people beside me. So people were crammed into this room to hear what she had to say. And it was with good reason because she gave us great content. This interview is the same way. It's packed with so much value, so many actionable things, and just some really great tips for you that are not going to make you feel overwhelmed. It doesn't really matter the size of your list. This is one of the things that I got out of both our interview and her session, that you can do so much with a super targeted niche. And she's going to talk, you're going to hear her talk about what that means and what that looks like and how this might work for you. So I'm really excited to bring you this interview with Maritza, and I'll leave all the links to her in the show notes, which you can find at createifwriting.com/017. So check out the show notes so you can go find Maritza. If you sign up for her email list, her freebie, which is amazing, is a giant downloadable list of all of the different kind of freebies, or as entrepreneurs call them, lead magnets, that you can offer your email subscribers when they sign up. It's a really awesome list. I have it and just went through it. It's got tons of pictures and ideas to help you think outside of the box to come up with that freebie, which can be a really hard thing for some people. Enjoy this interview with Maritza, and I hope that it encourages you that no matter where you are in your list building, it's valuable, it's important, and you can do great things with any sized list. I'm talking with Maritza Parra from maritzaparra.com, and I heard you speak at Podcast Movement, and you spoke on list building, and it was super inspiring and just a really great session. And so I knew I wanted to get you kind of one-on-one and pick your brain a little bit more about list building.
Awesome. Yeah, it was such a good conference, and list building is so important for any business, really offline and online. And so many people don't focus on it.
And I think it's hard because it's one of the things people say is the most important, but it's very easy to grow something like a Twitter following. But I feel like email, you have to kind of get past that hurdle because our inboxes are so full. You really have to kind of win people over and then have good content. So I think a lot of people are just like, oh, why would I want to do that? It's just so much work. And they give up kind of before they start.
So true. So true. And they do focus on those things like Twitter and now Periscope and all that. I've been Periscoping, but I always make sure to let people know where they can get more. And like you talked about content is so incredibly important to be giving content that is not behind the opt-in box. Give that freely. so that when you do ask for the opt-in, and hopefully in your content, it's like sprinkled in there, then the right people will get on your list and not just everybody.
Yeah, that's a big thing as well, too. I feel like list building is just such a giant, there's so many intricacies to it. I mean, and people just like, oh, build a list. It's like, oh, yeah, wait, slow down. There's a lot more to this, especially if you want to do it right. And maybe that's why so many people are like, I don't want to build a list. It doesn't work, is because they're not sure what to do about, finding the right people, or what to do when you have people sitting on your list that you need to get off. So anyway, I want to dive in and ask you some questions about how you use your list. I know that you have a podcast that I've been listening to, Easy Online Marketing, and you're known for your skills as being an entrepreneur, but you also, as soon as you hit your website, we see pictures of you with horses. And so and I love the story. I was just reading your About Me page. So I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of how you got started as an entrepreneur, and also what is the deal with horses everywhere?
Yeah, I'm a little bit horse crazy, and I have been my entire life. And I actually turned my love for horses into a business. I have and I still have it, an event planning and entertainment business for meeting planners and convention groups that come to San Antonio. And so me and my team, we ride the horses and make them dance, and I sing on horseback. And we basically plan a big party for these different convention groups and tourist groups that come. And so I really cut my teeth on direct response marketing, because we used to travel around the country doing this show, and finally everyone started getting married, all of the other performers, and nobody wanted to travel anymore because they wanted to start families and everything. So I really had to learn how to market the show to the groups that were coming in the future. So I really learned direct response marketing, and that helped me so much with transitioning online, because list building is all about direct response, getting people to take an action. And so I had this horse website that I started with. And because I knew the importance of being able to contact people, sending those 4-color full page, 4 full color brochure, 4-page full color brochures to my meeting planners and convention groups, I knew that I wanted to have some way to contact people. So I started doing a newsletter. I started building a list around horses, dressage, and the type of horses that I ride and breed. And I was going through a difficult time in my life. I was getting a divorce, and I needed some money. Those are really hard, trying financial times, and personally, financially, anyone who's been through that knows. So I decided to do something that I'd never done before. I decided to find out if my list wanted to buy anything from me. So I did a survey, and I asked them. I had no idea what they would want. I actually thought they would want the thing they didn't choose. So I said, hey, do you want A or do you want B? I was sure they were going to choose A. They chose B. So I'm so glad I asked. Then I did an online event. At that time, it was teleseminars. Webinars weren't even, I don't think they were around at that time. So I did a teleseminar. I invited the people from my newsletter horse list, and I made an offer, and I was so scared. I was so scared to make the offer. And it was an offer for a set of 6 DVDs about the horse performances, about these riding clinics that I put on. And I have amazing riding instructors that had put on the clinics. So it was a lot of gold in there. I made the offer. I was so scared. And I remember getting off of the call and seeing the orders start coming in. And after a couple of days, the orders totaled $29,746. And my whole life changed in that moment, because I didn't have to ride a horse. Not that I don't like riding horses, but I didn't have to put makeup on. I didn't have to do the choreography. I didn't have to plan the party to make money. It was passive income, and it was scalable. So something that really shifted my mind and really taught me the power of email list building.
And I love that story, because, a lot of people now, you can get that training, how to do a webinar, how to do these things. But like you were saying, back then, they didn't even have webinars. It was teleseminars, and you were figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, I was so scared. I swear, when I hung up the phone, I was sweating like bullets. It was crazy. I was so scared. And what's really interesting is that I proved the concept of the 6 DVD set I didn't actually have them created yet. So I emailed everybody who bought and I said, okay, these are in production. It's going to take 9 to 12 weeks to get them produced, get them manufactured, and you'll get them to your address during that time. And everyone was like super nice about it. And since then, they've been selling online and sell online to this day.
That's amazing. Well, and I like the idea too of asking your people what they want, because that's such a huge thing.
Yeah. And I think that so many people who want to do email list building for their businesses, they hide behind the computer and they don't talk to people on their list. I do a lot of things like subscriber appreciation days, where I'll get on the phone, for 15 minutes, 30 minutes at a time with different subscribers who sign up for time just to chat with me about things. And that's how I really get to know them. That's how I discovered that there's something called list building stage fright. And I think you alluded to it in the beginning, where people start building their list and then it feels like they walked on a stage, they took the mic, now the floodlights on them, and every one of their subscribers is waiting for them to say something great, to give great content. So it really paralyzes people and it makes them procrastinate in communicating and giving good content to their list. So they lose the whole point of a list, which is to create a relationship.
I love that. The point is to create a relationship. So question about that then. So your first product and that first launch that you did, which had such great success, about how big was your list, if you don't mind my asking?
It was about 800 people.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Well, it is a super targeted niche of very passionate people. It's Andalusian and Lusitano horses, which most people don't even know, that they exist. So it's a specific kind of horse, a specific type of riding, classical dressage. So I think this speaks volumes to the power of super niching. So I think that's one of the things that many people don't do. If you get super specific on what you can give people and you speak to those different pain points, you're going to connect a lot more deeply. You're going to build your list a lot more quickly, and you're going to resonate with the right people that you can help.
Well, so you talked about that as well in your session, this idea of super niching. And I'm kind of curious, so we see the benefit because, you just shared it, like that you find those pain points and it works really well. How do you find and connect with that, super specific group?
So there's a few different ways of doing this. And I think that it's so important to research. Do the research, do the work. So many people try to guess what their prospects really need and want from them. Just like my first survey I ever did, I was convinced they wanted product A. They told me loud and clear, about 87%, that they wanted product B. So some of the ways that I help people research are by surveying their past customers and subscribers, which is really important. These people have already raised their hand and said, I want to be on your email list. I want to get your content. These people have paid you money. They're the best people to know. So it's important to find out why they got on your list. What pains were they looking to help that you could solve for them? Also, getting in front of people. Again, we get so seduced by this online business world. We can just be in our little office and you make millions of dollars. Well, if you really want to get into the mind of your prospect, you got to go and look at them in the eye and have deep conversations with them. So I think one of the best tools for doing that is Meetup. I've had different meetups. One was a Law of Attraction meetup in 2006 and 2007. That was huge for me. I also do one right now in my local area all about list building and email marketing. And that's been great for me too, to really get in the mind of what people need. So I think that if you don't want to start your own meetup because it is a commitment, you can always go to an organizer of a meetup for whatever niche you're in, because there are all kinds of meetups on every topic under the sun all over the world. You can go to an organizer and you can say, hey, I've got this great talk. It's going to give some really good content to your people. Can I come and do it? So you'll get in front of the meetup. do your talk, and make sure at the end to do Q&A and record it. So much gold will come out of the mouth of your prospects, that things that may seem common to you will turn out to be some of the biggest pain points you can help with. And you can't even see them because you're the expert.
That's really great. I don't think a lot of people do think about kind of getting out from behind the computer. It's all about what you can do behind the computer. And what I love as well is, when I mentioned going to your site and finding horses array, I don't actually think it's that crazy, because I've heard you talk about the super niches, but it breathes life into who you are, because there are so many people online who are experts, who are selling things, who are entrepreneurs, who are doing business. And so many of them look the same. And you head over to a website and this person could be the same as this person or this person, because there's no personality. There's no something different. They don't allow themselves to be kind of a real person. They're just sort of like an avatar. It's not a real person. It's just this little picture in this little website that everything looks really professional. And so when you hit your site, very clearly your personality comes through and some of your likes and dislikes. So even for people who may not be interested in horses, they get a sense that you're a real person and they find the things that you love. And I think that that's a really great way to make that connection digitally. So if you're not, even if you're not moving into that meetup stage yet or doing something live, digitally even you can, look more in the eyes of your customer digitally or your community by showing that kind of personality.
Oh my gosh, that is such a huge point. And I think that so many people are scared to show who they really are. I love drawing cartoons and I love artwork and I love painting and things like that. And for a long time, I just did cartoons for myself and for my family and things like that. And recently I started making my little entrepreneurial cartoons with different little lessons and things that, if I'm scared of something, I make a cartoon about it so that it soothes me. And I've started sharing those things, and it's really made me connect so much more with the people that I can really help, the people who are having those same issues. And so it's about showing your unique gifts, adding those to your business, and being vulnerable, being okay with showing, the underbelly that isn't so perfect. And that's how you're really going to connect with your perfect people, no matter what niche you're in.
I think that's really great. And I keep coming back to this idea that I touched on and you touched on, which is the fear. Like you called it the list building stage fright. And I've never heard that term, and it's so perfect, because I feel like what happens is that people, they not only get scared to sell to their list, they get scared to even email their list, because every time you go to hit send, you're like, how many people will unsubscribe? And I know for me, even though I feel kind of confident of my email, like the plan that I have and what I have set out on my different lists and what I'm sending to them, every week when I go to hit send, there's like this fear, how many people are going to unsubscribe this week? Because I think every time you send an email, someone's like, oh yeah, I'm on this list. And so I think people sit there and they fear, so they don't even email their list. And then they also they definitely don't want to sell to their list if they're not even going to email them. So how do you think we can deal with that fear of sending and then also of selling to your list?
Oh my gosh, that is so incredibly astute. So many people are scared to email their list. It is that list building stage fright. They don't want to offend anyone. But if you believe that your content, and again, in whatever niche you're in, is actually going to help them, not emailing them and not making offers is withholding your help. And ultimately, it's withholding love. Because if you really want to help people, what are you doing? You're helping them resolve their pain or reach their dream. That's a form of love. I actually did a cartoon series on this recently on my blog about, because I see a lot of people who get offended when somebody sells, but how are they going to share their light if they get offended when other people share theirs? So when you send an email out, if anyone's listening that gets scared, just make sure that you know that it's helping in some way and that they got on your list for a reason. They needed your help. They needed your inspiration, your guidance, your tips, your strategies, whatever it is. So now it's up to you to make sure and continue that relationship, give it to them, and make those offers to be able to help them. not everyone's going to take you up on it, and that's okay. I have people on my list who have bought everything I've done. I have people on my list who have never bought anything and probably will never buy anything. And that's okay. They still like getting my stuff.
That's great. I think, remembering that people are on your list for a reason. And then, if they get off your list, I try to think of it this way, your list just gets warmer. Every time I lose somebody, my list got warmer because I lost a person who wasn't my target audience. Like if they don't want my valuable email, then they're not going to want anything I sell either, so right. I might as well not pay for that person, because once you get to that level of, if you're using something like, MailChimp, which is free up to 2,000, like once you get to that level of paying for emails, like you don't want to pay for people who don't care. You don't want to pay for people who don't open. And so I try to remember that, but I know there was one week I sent an email. I usually send a weekly email on Sundays, and I had this crazy event happening. And so I sent it Wednesday, and I usually have like 1 or 2 unsubscribes. I had like 25. And I was like, so note to self, Wednesday is a terrible day for me to send email. Or is it a good day? Because my list got very warm, but the only thing different, nothing in my content was different. The only thing different was that it was a Wednesday. And I just found that baffling, but.
That's so funny. Well, I think it's really important to trust and don't take it personally. It's not personal. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they decided not to learn about whatever niche you're in. Maybe you never know what's going on in somebody's life. So you really can't take that personally because it will paralyze you and give you analysis paralysis. So yeah. I think that so many people ask me, when's the best day to email? I'm like, if you have something important to say that can help, that's the best day to email.
Yeah.
And you got to listen to your intuition. If you like to be marketed to with, inspirational stuff, send out inspirational stuff. If you like to be marketed with more dry, like technical stuff, send that out. Do what fits for you. Follow your intuition. So many people say, I need to have the exact map. But I think that a true teacher teaches you to look inside.
That's so important. And what's funny about that too is I mentioned sending on a Wednesday and having such a terrible response. I researched way later than that. I was researching what are the best days to send just out of curiosity. And Wednesday morning is one of the optimal times to send. And so I'm like, well, maybe because everybody's researching when to send, everybody sent an email Wednesday morning. And so mine was just one of the 4,000 emails they got. And they're like, oh, all these people with their newsletters, So I think the same thing, Sunday night works for my people. That's when I get opens. I don't get unsubscribes. That's when it works. And so even though that's not an optimal time, if you research for my list, it is. And so, they're used to hearing from me and that's what works for them. And so I think you're totally right. It needs to be looking inside and thinking about what works for your list. I mean, it's great to look at research. You definitely should. And then you should do what works for you,
Exactly. And I love what you're saying because it's about, and this sounds, but it's the same in any personal relationship. You teach people how to treat you. So if you are scared and if you get one nasty comment from an email and you stop emailing, no, do what's right for you. If somebody sends you a nasty comment, I just scroll down and I unsubscribe them myself immediately. I don't put up with that. I actually have somebody who was a client and was really mean to one of my team members. And so I refunded her and I gave her money back. I was like, yeah, my team is like my family. So that's not okay. You teach people, you train people how to treat you. So if you're tiptoeing around your business and you're too scared to do anything, you're training them to see you as a doormat. If you're changing based on their needs, it's your business. You're giving great content, you're making great offers, then, you should do that because you will be helping some people.
I love that. Yeah. Setting the tone for, I hear this talked about for Facebook groups. I've heard a lot of people talking about Facebook groups lately and the power of those and how, the person who's running the group sets that tone and gets the people sort of knowing the rules of like, okay, here's what this group feels like. Here's what is safe in this space. Here's what's not okay. And even though email, the type of engagement is really different, I think you can still set that tone, whether or not you reply to your emails, if somebody responds to one, whether you use the first name, whether you don't, whether you talk in a personal tone, how often you send, all of those kinds of things, you're setting a tone. And so, I like that you should kind of be confident in what tone you want to set and teach them, this is what my list looks like. If you don't like it, that's fine. You can go, you don't have to buy my things, but this is what it looks like. And I like that confidence in that.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thinking about kind of selling to your list, what would you suggest as like for someone who's wanting to sell something, a product or something else to their list for the first time, thinking, keeping in mind the stage fright of even just emailing a sales can be, a sales email can be very scary. So I know you said you did a survey, then you did sort of like a teleseminar, webinar type of thing. What would you recommend as people are kind of moving into, trying to sell? What is the balance of sales emails versus value emails, and how would you move kind of past that hump for the first time?
So if it's the first time, most people will have a lot of fear around it just because our society has put so much, there's a lot of negative connotations with money and sales, and you think of the cheesy infomercials and things like that. I think it's a great idea to enroll your list into your sales process. And one of the ways of doing that is a survey, or just asking them, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Hit reply with what you'd like to see in something, in a product that address this specific topic, and start enrolling them during your conversation leading up to the sale. And yes, there will be people who take total offense to being sold, especially if you've been giving without selling, because you have, again, trained them to see you as a nonprofit. So you don't want to do that. So hopefully, people who've been doing that will somehow, do a webinar and charge $7 or something, some kind of exchange of money, energy. You want to definitely do that. But so enroll them in the process in your newsletter. Start saying, okay, I'm thinking about doing this product. What kind of, specific things would you like to see in a product like that? So for my survey with my horses and a lot of different products that I've done since then, I have used the survey method. I have used, just hit reply with what you'd like to see in it. And then I'll usually do an online event, like a teleseminar or a webinar, and I'll say, hey, the results are in. So that kind of sets the tone of, hey, we're in this together. You guys have told me what you want, and now I'm bringing it to you.
I love that idea. I think that's such a great thing of involving people. And what you said kind of struck a chord with me about people kind of taking offense, because I used to, when I first got married, I started selling painted children's furniture. And it was something I fell into because I had a lot of nieces and more nephews. It was all nephews, I think, at that point. And I used to paint, and I couldn't find a job when we got married. Nobody would hire me. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm in this apartment. We don't have kids. I'm just sitting around. And so I started painting furniture, like little tables and chairs. And I was doing it so much, that, and there was a big demand, that if you've ever looked at a Pottery Barn kids catalog, it's insane what people will pay for stuff. And so, they told their friends and people started ordering. And then I kind of made the mistake of making it into like a business. I had no idea how to run a business. And so I would go to these shows and I would come with all these, pieces I had already painted and then take orders. And I'd done my research, like crazy research into, things, everything from the local stores selling hand painted things to, like I said, Pottery Barn Kids and other catalogs. And I priced my things even really too low for what it was, because a lot of the things like Pottery Barn, it's not actually hand painted. They use a term that makes it sound like it, but it's actually like screened on, even if it's like a canvas, like the computer does it, or they'll say like hand painted look. But to actually hand paint a piece of furniture takes hours. And I would go to these shows and people would come in and, you'd know what kind of bag they're carrying, you know how much their bag costs, and you can see like how their children are dressed, what kind of clothes they're wearing. And then they'd be like, this chair for $25 is too expensive. And I was like, that's on sale. It cost me like $15 just to buy the chair, and I just could not believe how much blowback I got from people about my prices, which were insanely low, which is why I really stopped doing it. Cause I was like, this is not scalable. No one they're, selling 8 million Pottery Barn non-hand painted chairs for triple the price. And I can't sell a hand painted thing for, for my price, which is lower than this. And so I feel like sometimes people, and maybe it was the fact that I priced too low that people weren't seeing the value. So then they were trying to talk me down, that it was some kind of discount thing. And,
Wow.
but I think wherever you're trying to sell, there's always going to be someone who doesn't think that the value is there. And so I kind of think, going back to what you said about setting that tone of just believing, if you believe in your product and if you've given people the value, then I think, standing confidently, and even if people are going to say no, or why are you doing this? Or if there's going to be some kind of negative thing that comes out of it, to remember, no, I've given you value and this product is worth what I'm asking. And so kind of to remember and maybe have that confidence.
Yes. And also it's so important to frame your product well. Some people will see things like that as a commodity. It's a table, but if you add things like a story, if you make it a status symbol, then you have a lot more price elasticity. I also did things in the bath and beauty product space, and it's soap, it's cream, it's salt scrub. It's not that incredible. But I took it to the Dallas Market Center to get into spas and retail stores. And the first time I took it, I didn't really have a story with the brand at all. It was just, the soaps and pretty packaging. And I did not do well. And it's expensive to get a booth at the Dallas Market Center. And I had a full page ad in their magazine and everything. So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. But I went back and I really started studying Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. And I'd used some of his principles with my horses. I added story. I added all kinds of things to the entertainment that I was giving to make it more romantic, to make it an event, to make it an experience for attendees. And so I added story to the bath and beauty products. I actually took photos from my grandmother, her photo albums, because the recipes for the bath and beauty products came from my generations of my grandmothers and great grandmothers making things for the local area in South America. And so I took photos from the black and white albums of them in the fields, of them with making different things. And I used them in the catalog. I told every single product had a little story, kind of like J. Peterman, the J. Peterman catalog. Yes. I made it like super romantic, and the Hispanic traditions handed down through the generations, and the secrets, the beauty secrets. My mom was actually a beauty queen in Colombia. So I had a black and white picture of her with this giant crown and scepter. It was so funny. And so the label for the coffee body scrub became her face, and everything. So the next time I went to the Dallas Market Center, I also had a TV with a slideshow telling the story. I sold out.
That's amazing.
So adding story, making it not a commodity, but more of a status symbol, more of an experience, gives so much price elasticity.
And I love that you didn't take like that first failure and be like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with trying to sell these, that you went back and you found a way to apply different ideas to it and you found success. So I think, for people listening who feel like, okay, I'm at a loss, no one's even opening my emails, they're definitely not going to buy anything from me, finding the way to rework and involving story, involving personality, involving your customers and your community in the making of it, all those things that you've been saying, Maritza, I think those are the things to kind of take a step back, look at all those things and then think, no, I can do this. And again, I love too that you made your first sale, a major sale with 800 people on your list, because I think that's the other thing about list building. I think that's really intimidating is it's very hard to build. And then there are all these people that go around and like join my other 45,000 subscribers. And it's like, I've got 5 and like one of them's my mom and the other one's my mom's other email address because she thought that would be helpful. My dad actually has done that. He's like, I subscribed to your blog twice. I thought that might help. And I was like, thanks, Dad.
Oh my gosh.
But
yeah,
that's, that's so encouraging to hear that it's attainable. You don't have to have an enormous list to have an effective list.
So one of the things that I really want to make sure is that I have had way more failures than I've ever had successes. And I think that's why I've had a lot of success, because I am okay with failure. I'm okay with screwing up and falling flat on my face. I'm okay with totally launching something and having no sales. I did a greeting card company, and that was a big freaking failure. It was like the most horrible thing. I mean, seriously, I've had more failures, and people are so scared of failing, and they don't realize that everyone who's been successful has failed so much more than they've ever had success. So when you have a failure, celebrate and see if you can shift it. If you can find something like how I found the story and I added that and it shifted everything, but make sure that you don't get scared of failure, because it will totally paralyze you and keep you from the success.
I love that. That's perfect. Just perfect to not be scared of failure and to keep moving on and celebrate those and then see how you can shift that. Well, I want to ask maybe one more question, and that is this. You mentioned the super niches, and I think for a lot of people, if you're not super targeted or you have several areas maybe that are targeted, and I think you said that you do as well, that you have some lists where you're talking to people who ride and some people who breed horses. How do you manage, and this is kind of a technical question, but how do you manage all of those lists?
I use Infusionsoft. So I use tagging, but if you're using something different, you can definitely put them into different lists so that you know why they signed up to your list and not just have one giant bucket. And that way you can speak to them to those pain points that they particularly have. Because I have people on my list, my horse list, who are only interested in the breeding program and the conformation in those kinds, in when we have baby horses or fully trained horses available for sale, those kinds of things. And then we have other people who are the serious dressage rider who wants to know, hey, when is this trainer coming from Portugal? When is this other one coming from Asia to give another workshop? And those are two totally different audiences. So you definitely want to keep those on two separate lists. And I have that list not on Infusionsoft. So that is in different lists where we can speak only to them.
And do you have, as people are signing up, because I know if you go to your blog, you have some different offers and things. Is it pretty clear, if people are signing up, which list they're signing up for? I think I'm on your list for kind of list building and those kinds of things. Do you have different offers for each of those lists to make it pretty clear from the get-go what people are going to get and what they can expect?
Well, we actually are in the process of making totally different sales funnels for each of those things. So if you go to my marketing blog, there's, I think above the fold, there's 5 different offers that you can opt in for that are very, one's about your message, the storytelling aspect. One's about specifically your list. One's about mindset. One's about money, about how to make offers and those kinds of things. So we're right now building out totally different sales funnels that go with each of those. So if you fill in the form for the mindset, you're not going to get the offer for the list building.
I see. Okay. That's really smart. And, I think a lot of people, the other thing other than fear that kind of holds people back is time. And so that sounds like a lot of work, but I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about repurposing content and, not having to give away an entire book, as an incentive or a magnet for people, but, a checklist, a PDF. And you have also a PDF on 157 different ideas is it for lead magnets that you have?
Yes. Okay. So it's 157 ideas that I've gotten from all over the place of things that are working now. And so it's kind of like a giant swipe file.
That's awesome. So, don't be intimidated if you are if you have several different lists, but you don't even have one kind of freebie or a lead magnet to offer, maybe sit down and take a couple hours and plan out okay, these are probably going to be I have I have 2 to 3 lists. One is there for training. One is there for kind of my weekly podcast. And then the other, I have a lifestyle blog that's just about like parenting, food, you know, that personal kind of aspect. And so I have 3 totally different lists. They want 3 totally different things. And so, you know, I've kind of been in the process of figuring out, okay, what does each list get, you know, on a weekly basis? And or do I even send them something on a weekly basis? Is it just when I have an offer, you know? But that's something maybe to spend some time to kind of sit down and plan out, like, okay, this is what this list is. This is what they want. This is what would attract people. Because if you know, have something as a lead magnet for somebody and then it puts them on the wrong list, I feel like that would be kind of a waste.
Yeah. And the lead magnets, don't make something giant. Make like a 1-pager, a 2-pager, something that gives some, you know, little nugget of gold that is an instant awareness, some kind of something that's like an aha, like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. But it doesn't have to be like a whole mini course.
Yeah. And I've heard people, actually, I just heard someone recently who was talking about list building, and she was saying that your freebie or your lead magnet should be a value of $100. And I was like, who has time for that and money for that? And if I have something worth $100, I would like to sell it. Like, I don't, I'm not saying It shouldn't be valuable, but that is maybe a little bit too much value.
Right. And it can be something that is a simple truth that you know that is not readily apparent to your prospect, but gives them a total shift where they're like, whoa, that was awesome.
Yeah, I like that. So that makes it a little bit more accessible. Well, I feel like this has been just such a valuable conversation with so many, as you like to put it, pieces of gold in there. And I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of talk through how this has worked for you and some of the things that might work for other people. So thank you so much, Maritza.
Great to meet you and great talking with you all.
Yes, thank you.
And October's almost over and the dark nights are closing.
So are you feeling encouraged? I walked away from this interview just wanting to go implement so many different things. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments on the show notes what you want to implement or what questions you might still have or how you felt after hearing this great interview. So again, you can find the show notes at createifwriting.com/017. And again, don't forget to sign up for Maritza's email list, which you can find at maritzaparra.com. And you can subscribe to her podcast as well, which is Easy Online Marketing. So I hope you go visit her at maritzaparra.com. And if you're listening, I would love it if you would leave a review on iTunes. I know a lot of you guys are listening because I look at my stats now and then, but I've only got 9 reviews. And if you're one of those people that left a review, thank you, because they're all so good. I really appreciate my listeners. So I'd love to connect with you deeper as well. If you're interested in joining my email list and you're not already on it, it's called the Create If Quick Fix. And every Wednesday morning, I'm going to send out a really short email packed with great links that have to do with things like writing, platform building, email, and then something just for fun, which apparently some of you say is your favorite link in there. So I definitely take some good time to curate great value for you guys. And I don't take up a lot of time because it's a short email. So if you're not already subscribed to that, you can head over to the show notes. I'll leave the link there as well. And again, it's createifwriting.com/017. Thanks so much for listening. And I hope that you have an inspired week.